Hi guys, so I thought I would do another video about atomic cars, as the last video was a lot of fun to make and I've been doing so many mini Z videos. I thought I would take a little break and just do something, go back to my atomic cars. I'm going to start off with the AmZ, which is the all-wheel drive atomic car. So when you buy it, it comes in a box and you can choose whether it comes with everything you need to get going or just the basic kit. And I got, I think, the kit that comes with everything: metal speed controller, servo, motor, and yes, I think that was it: servo, motor and speed controller. And it comes in a basic format with a 94mm chassis. Okay, so this is a 94mm chassis plate. It comes with a drive shaft, so you can make it 98mm. So this is a 94mm mini Z body shell, and it really is sort of the rival. I think it was made to rival the mini Z all-wheel drive when they came out. So the actual chassis design on this car is quite old now, although I bought this one last year. And I've done a few hop-ups to this, but the basic premise is you've got a car which is differential at the front, differential at the back, drive shaft along the middle, independent suspension all around, which is something the Mini Z initially didn't have. Adjustable shocks, again front and rear. You can change the position of the suspension arms. You can adjust the ride height. There are little screws which are pretty impossible for me to show to you on this. Maybe I can show you just there, a pair of tweezers. Yeah, there's little screws just here. It's the same as the DRZ video I did last time, where I pointed out the screws to adjust the ride height. So you can adjust the ride height. You can adjust the toe in and out with the steering arms. You can adjust the camber by buying more of these parts, which are the upper and lower wishbones, and you can also adjust the track width front and rear by changing these. Now I actually like the setup it comes as, because it's the one where you can get the most mini Z bodies onto it. It's not too wide from hub to hub, so if you want to use a wider shell, you can just use wheels with a bigger offset. And for the fun part of racing, being able to use different shells, it just makes it brilliant. Right, so what separates an atomic car from a mini Z is the way the chassis is designed and the electronics are designed. So you have to normally build the car yourself. You can get them ready built, but I've not seen any ready built on the websites for a while. So you have to build the whole car. You have to build every single bit and screw it onto what starts off as a chassis plate. And it's one of those things where, because you build it yourself, you understand the car straight away, and you can choose the electronics. So here I've got a Noble Fly Sky receiver. I've got a Oniseki gyro, and I've got a Savox servo, which I've 3D printed a custom servo mount. It's a little bit bigger than the standard servo, but the advantage is that when you're racing, these wheels will, if you get knocked, your car doesn't go offline because the steering servo is so strong. So there's pluses and minuses to that. It does weigh a lot more, adds more weight to the car, but it makes the car, when you've got a lot of cars around you bumping into you, it makes the car more stable. I have upgraded some parts on this car, so you can see the drive shaft is not standard. The rear gearbox cover, I don't know if you can see that. Let me take the speed controller off. I actually unglued it so you could see. The rear gearbox cover is not standard. It's usually plastic like this one. I couldn't find the front one. I wanted to get a front one as well. But these things add to the weight, but it does make the car more sturdy. And you'll see on one of my other AMZ, I've got the alloy body mounts, which actually are pretty good. It makes the body stay on better, so those I recommend. So yeah, that's a basic Atomic car. Brushless motor, brushless speed controller. Choose the electronics you want. Most Mini Z shells will fit it. So in this case, I've got the Skyline R33, I think it is. I might be wrong. And it fits on just like a Mini Z body would. Now, once it's in place, you'd be none the wiser. So that this is a AMZ, not a Mini Z. So that's an AMZ at 94mm. So to make this 98mm and use a longer shell, you'd have to use the drive shaft that comes in the kit, move the gearbox back, and then put your bigger body and change your front clip and put your bigger body on. So if you want to use, say, an Audi R8 body on it. So that's out of the box. You can do that quite easily. If you want to make the wheels wider, just use wider offset wheels. If you actually want to change the wheel track width, then you'd have to change these parts, which are extras that you have to buy from Atomic, Miracle Mart or RC Mart. Things get harder to find for these cars. It's a bit strange. It's almost like these cars are popular, but they don't seem to want to keep all the parts going. So I'll come on to that now when I talk about the 90mm version. So I've 3D printed my own parts for these when I've needed them. And same for the rear wheel toe in, toe out. There's actually, I'll show you on my other car because you can see the 3D printed parts on it. But yeah, so this is the 94mm AMZ. Handling wise, I think I've done videos on these before. They're brilliant. They're really, really good. One upgrade that both my AMZs have had is the Hyperbell steering upgrade, which makes it pretty much like a BZ3 or an SZ instead of a normal. I'll have to take the shell off again to show you. Okay, so you can see in here that steering won't move because the servo's so stiff, so strong. I'll show you on the other car. Yeah, that's an essential upgrade for a small track. To get around a small track like I've got, you need the steering to be sharp, so to the steering angle to be greater. So that's where this Hyperbell steering upgrade is worthwhile. It doesn't cost that much, and if you're ordering an AMZ, I would order this part as well. You might as well build it in as you're building the car. Or as often has happened to me, I put the old steering mechanism in and realise afterwards that I need to go back and take it apart to put the Hyperbell link in. Okay, so that's the basic premise of these cars. So you can see where the motor sits. Longitudinal to the right hand side, and the battery counterbalances it, and the battery goes there like that. I've used Velcro on mine. This makes it easy to take it on and off, and I can position it more easily. The plug is an Atomic plug. These are the smaller ones. I'll put the exact measurement of what type of plugs they are in the link afterwards. Although if you want to watch details about the plugs, go to Beaver's video on the AMZ. It's very detailed and it tells you what you need to do if you want to use your standard JST red plugs with these, and you make your own adapter. He does a great video on it. I'm just doing an overview today so you can see what the different cars are about. So that's a 94mm AMZ. Now probably my favourite size of AMZ for the track we run on is the 90mm. So this Porsche 911 GT3 RS is 90mm, and instantly you can see there's a difference in the chassis plate. Let's see if I can put these side by side. Okay, so you can see there that the wheelbase is shorter on the Porsche and the chassis plate is different. So to make your AMZ 90mm, which is my favourite size for the amount of the type of shells you can get. I love the shells that are 90mm shells. You have to basically get a new base plate. Let me just take this top off. You may have spotted the battery glued into the back there. That's for making this car drive like a rear-engined car. I've also got a lights kit in it, as you can see, which I may show you in a moment when I put it back together. Okay, so here we go again. So this time you can see I've got a transponder as well. The radio kit I'm using on this car is the Das Micro ASF board, and I use this with my EX6, and all the JST plugs fit this. They're atomic size plugs, and they fit this mini board. It's a very nice, neat little board. So the gyro I'm using is actually an atomic gyro. You can see it's the same as the DRZ. That's glued in there. And you can see the metal body mounts that I've upgraded to, which are really, really good. I like those. So rear shocks, same. Everything else is the same. It isn't, all the parts are from a 94mm. All we've done is then put those parts onto a 90mm base plate and top plate. Now this is where the issue really I have with Atomic is. I ordered the base plate and the top plate, and it said out of stock for the 90mm drive shaft. So you need a different drive shaft for 90mm. And there's also a different part you need for mounting the rear spur against the motor. The motor mount's different as well. So I waited and I waited and I emailed and nothing at all. So in the end, my solution was to take one of the 98mm drive shafts that I had from my other kit and cut that down to a 90mm drive shaft, and then 3D print a part using a DRZ metal motor mount. So the motor mount on here is actually off a DRZ, and those were in stock, so I ordered another one. So I've got a couple of spares of those, and that way I was able to make my Amz 90mm. And you can see I've got a slight toe out on the front wheels on this car, and I just love it around the track. It really is, being that shorter wheelbase, it just is able to get around the corners a bit tighter. And for our circuits, the fastest lap times, it's no coincidence, have been set by a 90mm Mini Z VE Pro. This hasn't been on the track for a while, but I think it's going to beat the VE Pro once I tune it up correctly. And it's just been that with different cars, you can only run so many at a time. So here on this one, I can actually show you the Hyperbell a bit better. You can see it from this side maybe. So this is essentially the same car. $90mm. So again, what I love about these cars is the Mini Z shells. I think I'm going to quickly just show the lights kit on this because I do enjoy the racing, but the lights do make it cool. So obviously I've got no radio gear handy to turn on, so I will just plug it on just to show you. There we go, lights are on. Okay, the gyro is going to go crazy. I've left the transmitter in the other room, and yeah, so that mini receiver you can actually use with a Kyosho ASF transmitter, the KT18. Yeah, that looks brilliant, doesn't it? Okay, let's turn that off. So the next car I got, now technically I'm not sure if the SZ is Atomic, although it pretty much seems to have all the Atomic parts, and it's sold on their website. It's made by Ground Zero Racing, but someone tell me what the reality is behind that. I'm not sure myself, but to me it's an Atomic car. So the SZ is my favorite car overall. Not before the... Okay, let's just get to the basics. It's 98mm. You can't change the wheelbase. It's set as it is. It's quite wide front and rear compared to the AMZ, and that's the width you get. You know, you can change the wheel offsets, but overall it's a bit wider to start off with, which makes it, there's less shells you can choose to go on it. It's got a lot of metal parts as standard, so it costs more. The way it's been designed and set up, it's very similar to the AMZ in its basic structure, which I'll show you in a second. But the balance on it is amazing. It is very well balanced, and I think this car gets a little bit of grief for wear and tear, some of the parts, but I love the balance of this car, and for drifting especially, it is so smooth. It really does. You can control and balance it very well. And the main ways this differs, and I'll show you in a second. So you can see the motor there I've got mounted is a Charisma 8000 kV. Is the way the drive shafts are set up. I mean, the parts that come with it are beautiful, and it does fit together very well. Although it's not my most favorite build, there's lots of fiddly parts to this. If you look more closely at it, it is beautiful. Now, instantly, one of the things I forgot to mention on this is it's got the same diffs front and rear, but you can adjust them by putting a key through here, which is not easy to do. But I think I showed it on my last video about the HGD1. I'd got an AMZ diff in the back, and you can put an Allen key in here, find the hole where the metal adjusting washer is, and then you can turn the wheel and it will tighten the diff. Okay, same for the back one as well. So you don't have to take the gearbox apart. And if you've got adjustable diffs, if you've done a lot of racing, you know sometimes they can come loose and you end up having to tighten them again. So that makes it easier than to disassemble the whole car. Please excuse my messy speed controller here. Right, I'm actually going to hold the car a bit further away. Sorry guys, I'm having issues with focus today. I will do some more shots. Now, what this car is all about and what makes it so balanced, and you don't get any all-wheel drive torque steer, which you do get with the AMZ. When you push it hard, you do notice it. The reason why you don't get it on this car is because it's got two drive shafts. One from there to this spur gear here, and then another drive shaft here. And what they've done, you can't see it because all my electronics are in the way, is that the drive shafts are slightly offset so that you don't get any rotational forces. And if you go look at the Atomic website, they've got lots of details about this. But it's just beautiful the way it's designed, and the gears are very smooth. The transmission is so smooth. Now, the issues I've had with this car really are wear and tear in bearings. I had a bearing go here and a bearing go there, and that might be because of the 3 drive shaft design. But this thing, it is a thing of beauty, and the only thing I haven't done with it is put grip tyres on and give it a speed test, because I think it actually would be the fastest. And it actually weighs, I think, the same, if not less than the Bz3. I think it weighs less than the Bz3. I did a weigh-in video where I weighed all my cars, so I'll put a link into that and you can see the weights of all the cars. But the Bz3 is fast, and I think this is equally fast, if not faster. But yeah, I love this car. But you can see the quality on the parts, everything, you know, excuse the dust on the servo here, but yeah, metal servo horn there, hyper bell steering. And I think this car also has the best steering angle for the non-drift cars. You can see that really does turn a long way, and that enables it to go sharper around corners faster. You can just turn in quicker. So at the moment I've got drift wheels on this. I think at some point I would like to put some grip tyres and run it on a big circuit and see what it can do. Yeah, so yeah, the downsides, you can't change the wheelbase. It's wider, so you can only put certain width shells on it. For example, you can't put a Subaru, the 98mm Subaru shell on it. The wheels are too wide, offset on here. But my Lambo shell, this is one that I painted. Actually, I forgot to mention, I sprayed this one myself as well. And this Lambo shell I did myself. Okay, so that's the SZ. Right, and you can see that had the Fly Sky receiver there, no buff MB4. Right, so the Bz3. So this is the one that I think everyone I see racing with now on the videos on YouTube runs, and there's good reason for it. It is an amazing car. I think it's not the best for drifting. I know it's not designed for drifting, but you know, that's how we race. So we put drift tyres on everything. You can see I've got grip tyres on this, so I will be including some footage, hopefully, of this out running on grip tyres very fast, which I experienced the other day for the first time. Actually, I put grip tyres on it, ran it outside, and it flew. It is very fast, very well balanced. Now I've changed the setup of radio gear on this from earlier videos. One of the viewers recommended that I look at his setup, and he said the center of gravity makes all the difference on this car. So I moved all the radio gear to how he'd set his up with the receiver here, speed controller there. So, sorry, I'm going on. The BZ3 is a belt drive, as you can see. It was the first belt drive, I think 1/27th scale car. Okay, so it's got two belts. You can't see because the battery's in the way, so I'm going to unplug the battery and see if I can show you a bit more. Now, I think I need to change the design of this. I don't like how this battery gets in and out. Okay, let's see if we can see a bit better now. Right. Okay, so you can see, again, very smooth, hardly any resistance when you're turning this. Okay, so there's a belt that runs from the back to this gear, and another belt that runs from there to the front diff. So the diffs are not compatible with anything else because they're designed for belts, as you can see. Very smooth. Okay, these tires have just been placed on not very well at the moment, so please don't judge my tire placements. I will adjust those. This is a 3D printed part I put on just so I could glue the gyro on, so that's a gyro there. Now, surprisingly, I ran this on the track the other day, and I mean, I'm not the best with tires, so recommendations on tires will be appreciated. And what I found was that despite it being all-wheel drive on our track, which is kind of slippy, and having grip tires on, I had to turn the gyro on because it was fishtailing quite a lot down the straight, which instantly sorted it. But I think a lot of people don't run gyros on these cars, so I need to know what the setup is, or maybe the track surface I'm using is wrong. But because we run drift wheels and we do a lot of drift style racing, we use the gyros. Okay, so again, a lot of metal parts. The motor is mounted midship transverse. I don't know if I've got that right. I always think of longitudinal that way, transverse that way. But it's mounted across, and it's an Atomic 5500 kV. Again, independent suspension, which I think is the best actually out of all the setups with suspension. Okay, hyperbell steering, not maybe close to the the SZ. Weighs, it's about a little bit more than the SZ weight. Again, I'll refer back to the video. I might put the weights up in the description in case anyone asks. But I have got a video which goes through all the weights and it's got the descriptions listed. There's a lot of metal parts in this car, and that makes it a little bit heavier, but it is great quality. Again, same as the SZ, you can only do it in 98mm. Cars. Now, Atomic also do the DRZ, which I did a video on last time. So I won't go spend too long on this car, but just to show you the difference. So the DRZ, and by the way, the BZ3 Sz, you can't get them in anything but a 98mm. So that's a question I get asked. No, you can't. You can't change wheelbases on those. So this is a 94mm DRZ. We did a video on this last time, and you know that you can't change the wheelbase on this unless you buy the Super Skeeter setup. I think you can get base and top plates, but again, they're very hard to find. My DRZ has got the chrome metal side mounts, which do make a difference to the body mounting. They stay in place very well and they don't wear, so they're very good. Okay, so main thing here is it's a rear wheel drive, and the steering angle's got a special steering setup, so you can really get a lot of steering angle. Brilliant drifting car. Not a lot I want to say about this today because I did a video on this last time where I went into a lot of detail. So yeah, the motor is mounted that way as well. But again, a lot of the parts are interchangeable. The wheels, in fact, these parts here are very similar to the BZ3 and the SZ. Also, a lot of these links, buckles, nuts, they're all very similar. But that's the DRZ. The diff is different though. Now, one last one I'm going to show is the AmR, which is, I think, probably the first one that Atomic did. So we've got an AmR here, and this is very similar in design. I think the DRZ was basically copied off this, just with a better steering rack. So an AmR that's got a similar motor mount, transverse. The rear gearbox I think is exactly the same. So you've got a slightly different rear suspension setup. Nice front setup. Wishbones are different. Steering system is completely different. You can see. I don't want to force that. It doesn't seem to want to move. Okay. Again, servos mounted vertically here. Battery goes through there. And I have run this with grip tyres because it's not a drift car, and it is amazing, absolutely amazing. And this was made as a rival to the Mini Z rear-wheel drive, I think MR Road 2. And obviously you can choose your own brushless speed controller, brushless motor, whatever radio gear you want. And the steering is amazing on it. It's light and it's fast. And as far as I can tell, you know, I don't see why I'd want to get another rear-wheel drive. So I was tempted to get a Mini Z VE Pro rear-wheel drive or one of the Evos, but this AmR was fantastic. So we don't really do a lot of rear-wheel drive racing. I think if we did, maybe we'd get some more of those cars. You never know. With the lockdown going on, boredom kicks in and you start to look for other things to do. So that is my Atomic set. And at the moment, I have no interest in getting the front-wheel drive version. They do a front-wheel drive. I think that's the only one I haven't got, but I have an aversion to front-wheel drive cars for some reason. Okay. Right, so if you ask me which is my favourite car, I'd probably, for the nippiness of it, the AMZ 90mm. I think around the track it's so much fun to drive, especially with this counterbalance at the back. It really makes it like a tail-heavy rear engine Porsche 911. So that I love. But yeah, they've all got their place. I think having seen what the BZ3 can do with grip tyres outside the other day, I was blown away, and I'm going to look to see if we can do some different style racing